Have you wondered about turmeric and how it can absolutely affect your life? The ins and outs coming up next on the Very Cari podcast.
You found the Very Cari podcast. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and snuggle in while you and I chat about all things faith, wellness, and healing.
Welcome to the Very Cari podcast. I have an amazing guest that I've been binge watching all of her YouTube stuff. Dr. Shivani Gupta, thank you so much for coming to the Very Cari podcast today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You are an expert in so many things, and especially turmeric, and I'm just loving your YouTube channel. We'll give you guys the information so you can go and watch all of her videos, but I brought you here today because on the Very Cari podcast, we talk a lot about becoming more healthy. And it doesn't have to be giant, huge steps. A lot of my people are losing weight. They're on that kind of a health journey. But there is something I am very concerned about, and that is the amount of inflammation I'm seeing in my clients, in this base of people that watch me. And I think that you might have an answer to some of these questions. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you can help us today?
For sure. So I grew up in a family where we'd go to India every year, and all I saw was the aftermath of a family that was always inflamed. And so I'd show up in India as a little kid and I'd see, oh, my grandma needs a quadruple bypass. Oh,
Really?
my grandfather had a heart attack. Fast forward through high school, then it was like, oh, my other grandfather had his leg amputated and he's suffering from Parkinson's. There's dementia. All the advanced stages of diabetes is all I ever saw. And as I watched this unfold, I always thought, what is the root cause? What is causing my entire family to work so hard all their lives? They're good people. They give back to the community. They're part of Rotary Club. Like they do all this good. And then that last quarter of life is horrific. It's
Yes.
it's all in hospitals, all spent managing sick care and never enjoying it. So you
Mhm.
work so hard, you're supposed to retire and travel and enjoy life. And my family did the opposite. And so I thought, okay, first of all, I have to learn to prevent diabetes. And second of all, I have to understand why this disease ravages us so much. And so that set me on the path to studying my own health and why I had my own gut health issues growing up, taking so many antibiotics and things. And so on one trip to India, I was visiting a doctor, this Dr. Gupta. I was disastrously sick. We weren't sure if I should be hospitalized.
Oh,
And he prescribed all these medications. And I just looked at him and I said, you know what? How about you explain to me what you're giving me? How about you drop that antibiotic down a couple notches? Don't explode my gut again. And let's take a probiotic. Let's bring some holistic tools in
right.
here. And that's when I went on this path to study Ayurveda because I told my parents, I said, you know, we're in the land of India, land of yoga and Ayurveda, this ancient system that these people all say works. I'm curious, does it really work? And so I went on a quest through North, South, East, West India, studied Ayurveda in depth and realized, wow, India has this ancient system of medicine. It's 5,000 years old. It healed my gut, healed my body, taught me how to prevent all these inflammatory diseases that we deal with right now. And it became my life's work. And so my whole mission is to take Ayurvedic wisdom and encapsulate it in a way that we can understand and utilize because we're in modern day times. We're not going to spend 24 hours a day on self-care, but can we bring it in a way that we can use to reduce that inflammation and win at our health and then not take so many things that cause side effects and cause trouble in the long run.
First of all, I love that story. How old were you when you had a little come to Jesus chat with that doctor?
I was freshman year and sophomore year of college, so
There you go.
probably 19, and I was like, that's it. I'm
Listen, she
done.
had she had some very Cari salty. I love it. I'm impressed. I have had many talks like that with doctors, being a nurse, and let me tell you. So I'm fascinated. First of all, I have to go back. I thought maybe in India that our Ayurvedic, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm saying it wrong. That was, is it considered alternative or it's not mainline? Because I would have thought it would have been mainline.
So it was the main mode of treatment and health for thousands of years. And then when the British colonized India, all
Okay.
of the Western culture moved in.
Yes.
English is the
Okay.
primary language taught in schools. That's the education system. So a lot of good came from the
Okay.
British being in India. And then one of the things that also happened was Western medicine came in. So now in India, you have both. You have full-on Western hospitals with everything in surgery and specialties. You have Ayurvedic hospitals. And then sometimes you do have the fusion. But a lot of times when you're dying sick, where are you going to go? You're going to go to acute care first.
Right.
But yes, you can always go to homeopathic, naturopathic, and Ayurvedic for those chronic long-term issues as well.
I mean, healthy people don't make any money, which is why we have, that's why we got big pharma. Okay. Whole nother podcast. All my people are like, stop, Cari, just let us get through this. I'm not, even though I'm in traditional medicine, I see
Yeah.
so many times where, and especially on the days when the podiatrists and orthopedic surgeons are working, doc, because we're seeing toes and feet being amputated. I'm seeing it every time I go to work, every single time I go to work. And it's just so sad to me. It just breaks my heart that there was not something we could do before we got to that point. So you studied all over India and then you brought it back to the States?
Yes. Yeah, I'm from Houston, Texas. I went to school in Boston, and now I'm a Floridian of 20 years. So I've just moved around a bit, but I always thought if we understood health, no one had to suffer the way my family did. And I kept having that message come through in my mind and reverberating until finally I realized we can change things. We can do this differently. In the United States, we have such an idea of whatever it is, it is. We eat the way we eat.
Yes.
Food is the way it is. When I go to the doctor, the medicine they tell me to take is what I have to take. And my message to everyone is no, everything you see is optional and
Yes.
you're sovereign and you actually have to advocate for yourself and you have to take the entire system you see and turn it over. And
Mhm.
then that's how you should live. Like you
Mhm.
should live the opposite of whatever you're being sold. And so really having that completely new vantage point is what I'm trying to show
Oh,
people.
I agree with this so much. I am a huge advocate. And I think the other thing that I find is that people always want a name for something. They have to have a name. And it's like, well, it's Lyme's, it's non-Hodgkin's, it's some kind of inflammatory disorder. Oh, I have this. They want that name. They just can't say, well, what's going on and how can we fix those symptoms? They have to have a stamped on the forehead, I have Hashimoto's. And I just get so frustrated with this. Well, we got to have a name for it. Well, why? It's not going to change it.
Yeah, it's true.
It
It's
is.
true.
I see that all the time. So a lot of the people watching have not heard of turmeric, have not heard of, your research and kind of, can you give us the very intro, the 101 on what we can do to decrease our inflammatory response? Because I am just seeing so many people with these autoimmune disorders. And
Yeah.
what I find interesting, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, you're like, say it louder. I mean, this is what I do, Cari. But what I'm finding is so many of them have so many autoimmune disorders stacked on top of each other, like IBS, like Hashimoto's, and it's just so many in a row, and they're all kind of inflammatory based. Maybe I'm wrong, but what do you
Yeah,
see?
I mean, I see the same thing you see
Okay.
because I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner. That when people find me, it's usually because they're at their wits' end and
Yeah.
they don't know where else to go. So then I'll
Mhm.
get the phone call and I'll say, "You have a huge autoimmune stack up. We're going to partner with functional medicine. I want the full testing panels done because
Okay.
I can have theories, but unless I have data on you,
True.
and when something's that serious, you want to understand what are all the issues because oftentimes a stool test will be illuminating,
Mhm.
hormone panel, food
Mhm.
intolerance test, mold test, heavy metal tests. Sometimes you have to dig
True.
in to understand what's triggering this, but also just in a consultation, I can understand what is their mind body constitution, what is their diet, what is their
Mhm.
lifestyle, how are they experiencing their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s? Because we know as we enter perimenopause, it's a whole different ball game of how we have to behave. And sometimes people haven't understood how to really calibrate to that new age demographic or hormone demographic that we're kind of finding ourselves in perimenopause and menopause.
Well,
And so what I like to teach people, go ahead.
I was going to say what we were doing at 20,
Yeah,
it's not going to work at 50.
correct. Unfortunately, I learned that really harshly. Last year I
Me
was turned
too.
44 and I had a big come to Jesus with myself and had to reconfigure how I approach my body and health. And I get really frustrated because I want to fully win with Ayurveda. And I will always want to think that I've got
Mm.
all the tools. And sometimes even I have to partner with functional medicine and say, okay, HRT was needed. I needed testosterone. I needed
Yes.
progesterone. My body needed things that it's not going to naturally make as I age. And so it's that humility of understanding, hey, all the toolkits are valid. Let's figure out what's needed in your toolkit at this age, you know?
That is so good. I remember going into my my practitioner and saying, okay, listen, it was premenopause stuff. I have hacked this, sir. I have biohacked this to death. I do not know what to do. And he was like, okay, well, tell me what you've done and let's see what we can do. But I was so frustrated because, like you, I wanted this to work. I wanted that to work. I had done the research. This is my space, not as much as you. I don't have the education the same, but I mean, I know I can hack this. And when I continue to have symptoms, I was like, come on. And he was like,
Exactly.
maybe you should just think about some HRT for a little bit. And I was like, no, can't I just drink something? Can I
Sure.
make a
No,
tea?
I'm the same way. And then finally, when I called this practitioner, she had been on my podcast. And as soon as she described the symptoms to me, I was like, you're hired. You're hired. That's me. I'm 44, entrepreneur, mother, trying to change the world.
Yep.
Tired as all heck,
Yep.
brain fog max, couldn't pull from my brain all my
Mm,
facts. And imagine the majority of my job is to teach on
mhm,
podcasts. So you have
mhm.
to have the retention, you have to have the energy. And I was like, this is not a quality of life I like. And so
Correct.
once she reconfigured everything, I was like, okay, now I have
Oh,
the energy. I'm going to go
mhm.
do workouts better. I'm going to go do my infrared sauna more. Like I have the space and time and energy now through the evening to do those things. I have more time to do my Ayurvedic self-care, actually, which is nice. So yeah, so within Ayurvedic medicine, we have a lot of tools we use. We use circadian rhythm, diet, we use self-care tools that are detoxing, understanding your individual dosha or mind-body constitution, which I have a quiz for on my
Mhm.
website. And then finally, the super spices. And I like to highlight the spices because a super spice to me is a phytonutrient that we use for our body that functions a lot like a superfood. Because a lot of us think of superfoods as goji berries and chia seeds and blueberries and all these things we get into, and we forget that our own spice cabinet could be way
Mhm.
more expanded and have a lot of benefits. And so my PhD dissertation was on turmeric the spice. And it was because when I was sitting in Ayurveda school and my master's degree, I realized in herbology class, they were describing all the benefits of turmeric that would have benefited my family. And I was like, if turmeric is that powerful at inflammation, why were we not all using it in a way that was supportive to prevent all these diseases that I saw as a kid? And so what I love most about turmeric is it's anti-inflammatory. And so we have a lot of science on turmeric for joint pain, for OA, for RA, and those kinds of things. Then we know it helps with antioxidant benefits as well. It modulates the genes to help us when it comes to our antioxidants, glutathione, and all those things. It helps with heart disease. So with our lipids, with stopping plaque from forming in our arteries, for blood pressure, it can help lower blood pressure as well. So stopping those plaques from forming and preventing them is also very important. Then what I love most about it is it's an immune modulator. So it's antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal, antiparasitic, anti-candida, anti-H. pylori. And so as someone who's always had to focus on gut health, I'm like, wow, for IBS, IBD, for all these gut issues, ulcerative
Mhm.
colitis, Crohn's, we have a lot of published science on the impacts of curcumin from turmeric. And so in PubMed, there's over 17,000 published articles on curcumin. Curcumin's the extract from turmeric. So a lot of people are using turmeric for the benefits, but they're not getting those benefits that we're looking for.
Correct.
Curcumin's also great for brain health. We know it works against Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. We know it stops amyloid plaques from forming in the brain, negative impact on tau tangles as well. We know that it stops all these issues that are forming in the brain, neuroinflammation. We also know that it has a powerful impact on anti-aging, on insulin sensitivity. It's anti-diabetes, anti-cancer. So when it comes to turmeric, the fact that it causes cell apoptosis, cell suicide of any cells that are damaging us that don't belong anymore, I
Wow.
think is really cool. It kills off zombie
Mhm.
cells. So to me, it's like this incredible plant that Mother Nature made. The problem is in modern day times, we're so inflamed. We all have this chronic, low grade, persistent inflammation causing damage. On top of it, we have a lot of stressors, environmental toxins, and things on top of that. On top of that, technology, EMF, a lot of things polluting our bodies. And then on
Mhm.
top of that, the stress of all the viruses and things that keep going
Mm.
around seasonally. And we have to worry about that too. So
And our
to me,
food is terrible. Our food
and
is
our
awful.
correct,
I mean,
correct.
you couldn't get enough nutrients even if you grew your own because the soil is so depleted.
Good point. I think about that too. Like my
Yeah.
food is not going to give me anything I need. So really I have this body that's like a shell that's trying to
Mhm.
survive. And we think we're doing so much to thrive, but the food itself isn't giving us anything.
It's
So
terrible.
Yeah, so it's like you have to play such defense in this world right now.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are just drinking turmeric tea, turmeric latte, turmeric juice. And I'm like, you guys, out of the entire turmeric plant, only 3% is the curcuminoids. Of those three curcuminoids, curcumin is the most effective at reducing inflammation. You need those curcuminoids in the right ratio, in the right proportions that mimic nature so that your body receives it, absorbs it, and uses it. But in the supplement world, no one's motivated by giving you what works. They're motivated by the dollar and making something as cheap as possible. So in
Mhm.
my case, I invented a formula and I really sourced so carefully to deliver that result because I wanted to prove to orthopedic medicine they didn't have to give us NSAIDs for
Oh,
pain.
yes.
And so because I formulated that way, the result, they were shocked and I was shocked. I was like, wow, I knew it would work, but I didn't know it would work like that. And so for 10 years, I've kept that piece the same. And when I built my formula, my factory said, you're crazy. You're never going to make money. Like, this is not how you do this business. And I said, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it for impact. I just want to prove my point and then write papers on how awesome it was. They were like, okay, you're pretty illogical, but okay. And so that's been my body of work for 10 years. And now
Wow.
finally it's grown enough. The numbers are working, which is great. So I get to keep doing it. It's a sustainable idea. But to me, it's incredible that when we take curcumin at a 95% standardized potency and put it in the body with black pepper or a healthy
Mhm.
fat, because we know that black pepper increases the absorption 2000%, or a healthy fat because we know it's a fat soluble vitamin.
Mhm.
And we know that turmeric's not well absorbed on its own. We have to take it in the right dosage, the right potency, but then with the right supports for that absorption and bioavailability, then we get those profound results.
Wow,
So
that is fascinating. So just so I can make sure I understand, from what I read and what you're explaining, curcumin is a component of turmeric, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Only
Because
3% of it. So the rest of turmeric is beneficial.
okay.
It has other great phytonutrient benefits. So in any great formula, you'll also have turmeric, the powder in there, but that's not doing the lift when we're talking about
The
that.
heavy work.
Yeah.
I'm on one of your videos, you said, don't be sprinkling, you didn't say it like this because you're not
Yeah.
salty like me, but don't be sprinkling a little bit of that powder on your
Chicken.
smoothie and think that
Yeah.
that's going to do it. And I
It's
love that
true.
because, working with Zymogen, they have said, the gal that is the director of sales said to me, the most expensive supplement is the one that doesn't work or the one that harms you because it has mercury or something else in it. And I love that. You can go to Walmart and buy all the junk
Yeah.
turmeric you want. But if it's not going to do the heavy lifting, if it's not going to work, it makes absolutely no sense to take it.
Correct. And that's
I
the problem with the supplement world is we have so much
Yes.
junk in the
Ugh.
market. And I walk into sometimes I've walked into Walgreens to pick up a prescription or
Mhm.
something, and I look and I'm like, you guys are selling so much stuff and people are believing you that this
Yes.
is good. And they're wasting their time and their money. And I'm one of those people, I always had to guard my immune system. So when I'm buying vitamin D, it better be vitamin D at
Mhm.
5,000 IU. When I'm buying vitamin C, it better be correct. So when I'm buying my turmeric and I'm relying on it, when viruses are going through my house with my kids, I need to know that it's exactly what I want. And so I've seen for the last 10 years, people call me all the time and say, wow, I was taking turmeric. I felt nothing. I take yours and I feel incredible. So it's
I've
pretty
heard
cool.
that story. I've heard that story before with other
Yeah.
supplements. That is fascinating. So, what can people expect? On one of the videos I watched, you said, "Hey, it's not going to be like take it and overnight." And I appreciated that because you didn't do that. You
Yeah.
didn't sing like that. You guys,
You're way more fun than I am.
yeah, no, everyone knows that I sing on my podcast. I'm always doing something crazy. But yeah, that's not gonna be the immediate, like the angels sang and all my problems were solved. My marriage was fine. My finances were great. It's not like that. That's
I
not
wish
perfect.
I wish
Right?
turmeric was that good. I would take
How do I
it
get it? I'm getting on
five
my
times a
phone right now,
day.
Doc.
It would make my kids nicer. I mean, I would take it any day of the week
We're gonna
then.
get it aerosolized at the house when my husband's I just squirt it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. But I want to know what people can expect. How should they take it? What should they get? I mean, I know you have a line of supplements. I would love everyone to know about what you do. So
Sure.
what's important when you're looking for it? Like again, don't go to Walgreens and buy it from wall value. Just
Yeah.
please, guys, don't waste your money.
Yeah. So when it comes to turmeric, what people don't realize is it is going to take a minute. It's not going to be instant. So it's funny because when pe some people take it, like if I meet a yogi who survives on green juice all day, next day they're like, "Oh my God, I felt it. Wow, that's strong." Versus any normal person is like 7, 14 days, sometimes up to a month. And a lot of times people take it and they're like, "Oh, I feel fine. I feel better. I don't know if it's the turmeric." And then they go out of town and they'll call me and they'll say, "Whoa. I've been a week without it, and now I know everything it was doing. My aches, my joints, my stiffness when I woke up in the morning. It was giving me more energy. It was fixing my allergies. I didn't realize I had so much inflammation. Wow.
Wow.
I didn't know that it was affecting my prostate. Some people have told me they can't go to the bathroom or pee if they haven't taken it because they're inflamed. I didn't know all these things before I made it. Gingivitis, allergies and sneezing, headaches, migraines. It can support reduction of migraines because neuroinflammation.
Hmm.
So it's so cool to me that a plant can do so much.
We have, by the way, just for all of my listeners, we have prostate day in the recovery room. And boy, let me tell you, every 15 minutes, someone with a prostatectomy or a TURP or a TURBT, I mean, they're just, we have funny names for that. I will not mention on the podcast, okay? But I mean, they just line them up. All these men come out. I mean, so everyone's got an inflamed prostate. If you're over 60, you probably have an inflamed prostate and you can't
Yeah.
pee. And it's just general inflammation. And like I was saying before, I'm just find it so interesting that when I know somebody that gets one autoimmune disorder, I
Yes.
feel like they all of a sudden they're like, oh, and I have, oh, and I have, oh,
Yep.
and I have. I'm just amazed at that. I know I keep coming back to that.
And many women around me have been diagnosed with autoimmune conditions. And even
Yes.
for myself, when I finally went to functional medicine, they're like, oh, you have leaky gut. No wonder. No
Yes.
wonder you present with all these symptoms that you're talking about. I was like, oh, now that I know what it is, I will manage it. And so I went the Ayurvedic way and I went the
Good.
functional medicine way and I resolved it 100%. And then
Oh,
later I caused it again and they and I both laughed. They're like, you got so stressed, you can cause dysbiosis again. And I fixed it again. So we have this ability once we know what it is to fix it, but the fact that we're all walking into this pit called autoimmune and then suffering,
mhm.
especially women predominantly, I think is nuts. And then when we go to rheumatology, their answer to us is here's hydrochloroquine and Celebrex. Good luck to you.
Oh,
And I've met just
horrible
a
meds.
few who sit there and say, here's, a 15-minute lecture on all the ways your lifestyle caused this and how you can
Oh,
actually reverse out of this.
yes.
So that's where I think turmeric should be utilized by every rheumatologist. If you're trying to give them an NSAID for pain, why are you not giving them high dose turmeric alongside? And then they can
Mhm.
reduce their NSAID use because I've proven that through orthopedics all day.
Yeah, because there's no big money in it. Okay, I went off on it again. Okay, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. Okay, tell me how people should take it, everything like that. Like give us the 411 on that.
Sure. So the recommended dose is 1,000 milligrams a day. I split that into 2 capsules, morning and afternoon. You can take up to 8 grams a day safely. So it's one of those things where the only side effect that we really worry about the most out of curcumin and taking a curcumin supplement is that it's a vasodilator. So it has a blood
Um,
thinning effect. So
okay.
if you're taking a blood thinner, please don't take a curcumin supplement that's
Okay.
potent. It's not a good idea. Other than that, everyone who takes it, it has a lot of anti-inflammatory benefits. So twice a day, and I talk to people individually, and if they're like, look, my joint pain's the worst, I need more, then we add a second formula on. So you can take up to 2,000 milligrams a day, and it's just fine. And I've seen thousands of people do that. And my doctors actually created that combo. They combined two of my products, which it didn't occur to me. And then that's our chronic joint pain solution. Everyone who has chronic joint pain can live on that alone, is what we're finding, and stay out of pain.
Really? People that were on narcotics, people that were on
I wouldn't say we can get right all the way up to opioids and narcotics. I always say to people, look, take both. One's affecting your systemic inflammation and bringing it down naturally. One's holding your pain, and you can see if you can reduce and reduce and reduce.
good.
So we have seen in the literature a lot of arguments and studies and double-blind placebo-controlled trials on curcumin versus really strong NSAIDs. And the curcumin is as effective for the symptoms with 12% less adverse effects because we know
Yes.
NSAIDs can cause GI bleeding, kidney issues, stomach issues, heart issues. And so that's where it's a powerful support. But what I talk to all my doctors about is, look, this is great for pre-op and post-op. It can reduce your
Mhm.
opioid use post-op, which is
Mhm.
great. And you can support the patients in just playing with the reduction of what causes side effects
Mhm.
and what doesn't. So it's up to them coaching their patient or guiding their patients.
I mean, if someone can take a turmeric extract in the right form, of course,
Yeah,
the right dose, and not have to take Tylenol, Motrin, your Celebrex, your Mobic, all those that are just your leaves. Those are people don't realize they just because it's over the counter does not mean it's safe. And
I
I feel
know.
like that's a huge misnomer in our society is that they think because you can get it at Walmart, it's fine. I
I
mean,
agree.
I sat at the bedside of a young lady who took a whole bottle of Tylenol PM and her liver failed and she died in the ICU. It's been many years ago, but it's not safe. You just can't take whatever you want, y'all. You know?
It's not. And I took my kiddo to functional medicine because I was worried about GI issues. One kid had a parasite, which I think
Oh
was
my
because we went to India and he was in the Ganges River. That's probably
oh.
where he got it. And I
Mhm.
thought maybe the other kid had it. And I did her stool test with functional medicine. She had gut dysbiosis. And I said, well, this kid gets headaches. And her dad always just says, take a Tylenol. And so high
Ah,
dose, it's not high dose, but frequent use can have a leaky gut impact, is what functional medicine explained to her. And I was like, yeah, you guys think these are candy and we can just take them and it magically gets rid of pain, but you forget that that magical process also had a side effect.
mhm. Like SIBO. Does SIBO also caused by use of NSAIDs?
I don't know.
Bacteria.
Um,
Oh, okay. You're like, come on, Carrie. That wasn't one of the 17,000 articles that I read for my
it's not, but
PhD.
I always go look
No,
after. I'm like,
no,
I
don't.
wonder.
We,
I
you
wonder.
see a lot of people with that leaky gut
Yeah,
leading to bacterial overgrowth. And
correct.
I,
I
I'll
don't
never,
see
I'll never
probably.
forget going to Dr. Mark Hyman. I went to a conference of his. Wait, this is back in the day when no one, I mean, we're talking like 6, 7 years ago when the idea of the microbiome in the gut was brand new
Yeah,
and no one was really talking about it. And I remember sitting there and him talking about it. And he had a bunch of high powered people there. And we was in California and he was like 5 feet away from me. And I was like, this is fascinating. I had
right.
no idea that this stuff took place. And now everyone's like, oh, the second brain, the leaky gut. I mean, now it's
Right.
commonplace, but
Yeah, and what's cool is Ayurveda said 5,000 years ago, gut health is the center of all health. You
yes.
manage that gut, you love that gut, you've got your immune system, you've got your brain, you've got your mood. Your vitality all comes from the gut. So the original science that holds the tools is Ayurveda. So I all the time when people come to
Awesome.
me, they're like, my gut's off. I'm like, aloe vera juice. Here's a tea. Here's a spice. Here's how you cook this dish. Done. It's easy. And we think in the West, like, oh, I've got to take my Pepto-Bismol, my Lanta or whatever it is. And I'm like, guys, there's a whole different toolkit available. That's my job. It's just to share a different option on the table.
I have to tell you, I mean, okay, this is totally opposite. But I think that what PPIs have
Yeah.
done for
Yeah.
they have ruined our intestines. That has nothing to do with turmeric or this podcast, but I just
It
want to
does.
say it.
It does, though.
Does it?
I
Okay.
got so many phone calls. I think it was last year or the year before. The British Medical Journal published an article that said curcumin is as effective as PPIs. They did a clinical trial on 158 patients and they proved it and they published it. And I was shocked that a major journal would publish something like that because usually all the phytonutrients are fully ignored for other solutions that exist.
Yeah.
And everyone called me. They're like, did you see this? You're the turmeric girl. Did you see? And so I always put that British Medical Journal first in my medical presentations because I'm like, hey, doctors, look, it's one of your big journals. And it's saying that curcumin's as effective with less side effects. So
Then
where else can we use
any of
it?
your PPIs. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Okay. So this is awesome. So 500 milligrams twice a day for most everybody, unless
correct.
something else is going on. And that's going to be just general inflammation.
Yes. And then when they know they are inflamed, if they're dealing with pain and they really need to bring that down, then you can up it to the 2,000 milligrams. I have two formulas. Turmeric Gold has the 500 milligrams.
Okay.
And then my second formula, I put boswellia, dried ginger, amla, like a symphony of herbs that
Mm.
work against inflammation. So that one actually has 400 milligrams per capsule because my factory was like, you're jamming too much in the pill. There's no space. So we had to reduce curcumin to put everything else in there. So yeah, up to 2,000 milligrams a day.
Um, I want you to show. Do you have your formulas with us so you can show
Yes,
me? Okay.
for sure. So these are the two formulas that I created. So
Okay.
turmeric gold is according to the classic science that we see in PubMed all day long, just built for more potency. And then inflammation relief is that inflammation solution. So people usually take one or the other or both.
Okay, perfect. And then tell me about, everyone's always wanting to lose weight. And I know there is no magic bullet. As someone who has kept 100 pounds off, 100 plus pounds for 10, 12, well, let's see, 13. I got to figure out how old my kids are. You know how that is. You know how you live your whole life and how old your kids are, like what year was that? How old is that kid? but for that long. So what does turmeric help with anything like that? Is there anything?
Yeah, it's interesting. It is anti-obesity. So it functions on the same pathway, the AMPK pathway, same pathways as metformin. We know that it causes insulin, it helps with our insulin sensitivity. We know that it increases bile salt, so it helps with the processing of everything that needs to supports the liver as well.
Okay.
And so we do think of turmeric as an adaptogen, helps with stress resilience, helps the body overall. And then because we're reducing that systemic inflammation, and we know inflammation and trying to lose weight and getting rid of a health and getting rid of fat on the body can be a catch 22 issue. If you're
Hmm.
inflamed, it's hard to lose weight.
Hmm.
And so I always tell people when you're trying to go on a weight loss journey, don't just start with the exercise and the food. Take a minute and look at how you're going to be anti inflammatory in your diet, how you're going to improve your sleep, because that's when we're going to clear inflammation. And
Hmm.
Ayurveda created the circadian clock and circadian rhythm. And so on that clock, when you're sleeping, like we teach to sleep 10 to 2 on the clock to clear the lymphatic system, clear the lymphatic system, so we can stay our healthiest and clear that inflammation. And then finally, reach into the toolkit, turmeric, ginger. We have a lot of spices that are so beneficial as well. So yes, turmeric is anti-obesity and it helps with insulin sensitivity. It helps with so many different of the aspects around this topic of weight loss.
So what are people going to notice? And you said usually depending on probably how, like, I hate to say it, but how junky their diet is, how inflamed they are, it might take a little longer. Like you said, if someone's super healthy, they're living that 1% lifestyle, they might be a little bit different, but kind of what can people expect when they start taking it?
So I eat a really clean lifestyle because I'm obsessed with health. So I take it and I feel nothing, nothing at all. And whenever anyone's sick around me, I start upping my dose and I'm like, I need more turmeric gold. And then I'm the only one who doesn't go down. Like norovirus is going through my house. Everyone catches the horrible cold, ends up with
You're
walking
fine.
pneumonia, kids sneezing on me. And I have I call it like my turmeric warrior shield of protection. So I don't catch the thing. So that's how I experience it as immune support. If I'm going out for an inflammatory meal, let's say it's the holidays and it's wine and fun meals, I'll take extra turmeric beforehand just to mitigate that inflammation that I know is going to happen. And then I notice my gut's not as upset the
Mhm.
next day. But most people tell me joint pain, joint stiffness. When they
Okay.
wake up in the morning, they're not as stiff. They tell me that their brain and energy feels clearer and better,
Wow.
migraine reduction, allergy reduction, and any inflammation that's going on in the body. And so it's interesting. I had a scan called a Prenuvo full body MRI,
Mhm.
and I was doing it just to understand, is there anything else I should focus on? Because I focused on everything for my health,
You
but is
did a
there a
full
lot?
body MRI?
Yeah, you can do that as like a
Wow, I
preventive
know. I've
tool.
heard of people that do
I
them.
heard about it and I'd never done it. And then I met this company and they gave me one. And I was like,
Oh,
sure, I'll take one. If it's free,
so
I'll take it.
cool.
So I did it. And I realized when I was working with them, they told me, the chief scientific officer said, I just want you to know I've never met someone in their 40s who didn't have inflammation in their joints. This is
Wow.
highly unusual. You have no lower body extremity inflammation. I'm seeing inflammation nowhere in your body. All we have to tell you is you still have a fibroid, which you knew about, and that's it. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like, I said, turmeric works. I take a lot of turmeric. I don't know
How
what
many
else to tell you.
years? How many years have you been taking it for?
10 years, because
10
I
years.
created the formula 10 years ago.
That is absolutely amazing. Okay, so how can people find your product, find you? Give me the skinny.
Sure. So my website is drshivani.gupta.com. It's SHIVANIGUPTA. And on there, I have a lot of tools, inflammation guides, my 7-day inflammation challenge, and my Fusionary Health podcast. And you'll see a link to my Instagram. It's at dr.shivanigupta. And then my supplement company is called Fusionary Formulas, FUSIONARY formulas.com. And Very Cari, VERYCARI is your
Yeah.
discount code to get
Yay.
15% off on my website.
Oh, thank you so much. This is just amazing information. And I think that people need tools in their toolboxes, and it doesn't need to be something on the counter. It doesn't need to be something that your doctor, I always say our doctors are wonderful, but they are paid consultants, right? We should be a team working together to get you better. And so many people come into the PACU, they don't know what they take, they don't know why they take it. They just have no idea what to do for their health. And I think it's time, guys, if you have learned nothing from me, learn that it's time to at least be your own advocate for getting better. And if there is something that can help you feel so much better and help with the inflammation, I can't wait to order. I'm
Awesome.
excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's my mission is just to show
Thank you.
all of us, just like it's your mission.
Right.
Let's all understand our bodies better. Understand what makes our bio individual bodies feel better. What are all of our deficiencies and then address them. I know I'm vitamin D deficient and all these things. Okay. Then know what the problem is and do the work. And
Right.
that's how we win at our health.
And everybody is vitamin D deficient.
Correct.
Y'all should be taking a vitamin D. Do you take yours with a K too as well?
Yes, of
Yes,
course.
that's what I do too.
High
I tell them
dose.
all. I'm
Yeah.
like, listen, don't be messing around. Take it with a K too.
Exactly. And take high quality. Again,
Yes.
every supplement you put in your body, if you're living organic, if you're trying to be healthy, your supplements need to be even higher quality than your
Oh,
food by a
100%.
long shot.
I long for the day. I long for the day when my health insurance will pay for me to get this. Why
True.
not? I would love that day. I mean, that's wishful thinking, I know, but it's so interesting because, my husband he was in the Army for 26 years. He has a lot of chronic, pain with the orthopedic, like we were talking about, just from jumping out of airplanes for so many years. And, they will send him to get anything sewn, anything redone, but to get a supplement, that's going to be something we pay for out of pocket, and I will do it gladly. But it's the point that I feel like it should be a part of our healthcare.
There is a new movement around HSA funds covering
Really?
our supplements. Yeah, there's a company by Cali Means that he
Okay.
built, and we have it on our website, so everyone can
Okay.
use their HSA funds to buy supplements. That's like a new movement happening right now. It's
I love
wellness through
that.
those funds.
They should. And they should pay for us to meet with people that are practitioners from all sorts of different types of medicine.
True.
But that's a bigger problem than I'm going to solve on a half-hour podcast on the
True.
Very Cari podcast. But Dr. Gupta, thank you. You are amazing. And you look amazing. I mean, if we could all take a little bit of turmeric and look that good, wouldn't we all? Wouldn't we all?
Thank you.
But
You're
thank
so
you.
sweet.
Well, and thank you for sharing your knowledge. I mean, I know it's the tip of the iceberg with how much you know. So thank you again for being on the podcast. We sure appreciate it.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. If you would like to find out more about what I am up to, go to verycaripodcast.com, click on the menu button, and under the tab You Are Here, that's a U and an R and a here, you can find out about the coaching I am now offering. I would love, love, love to have you be a part of what I am doing. Head to the website, check it out, and thanks again for joining me today.